And as I was talking about the expenses of what we're faced with, obviously, as you go through the financial report, I think it's pretty obvious, and this is just one of many things as you look through concerning the participation for our employees' teacher retirement fund. And you look at the where we are from 2005 to currently, our system is up to about in the 70% range of increases. And I'm sure that's going to continue as well as other things as concerning benefits. So we see that trend continuing.
Yeah, the retirement and the health insurance has been on a steep incline for years now. And that really impacts our system probably more negatively than most because of the staffing that we have over and above that's dependent upon local dollars.
Which we talked
about. So we get a bigger hit.
The other thing I'd like to ask is concerning the transfers in, transfers out. Could you kind of explain a little bit about those dollars? We talk about transferring in.
From a fund presentation, where the different governmental activities are accounted for in different funds or columns or accounts, and a lot of what you see in the financial statements usually is a culmination of a lot of sub-funds that feed up into that. For example, the simplistic model, the debt service, as Ms. Hodo talked about, is really there's two sub-funds there. There's a local sub-fund and a Jefferson County sub-fund. The 24 mil fund, when I got here, it was accounted for separately in a special revenue fund. I kind of like that presentation, really from an administrative standpoint, because that ad valorem tax is what is pledged against our debt. So it gives users of the financial statements the ability to kind of see that segregated. It's not there. It's not presented that way because it's restricted in any way. We've left it intact really for that reason. So, for example, the expenditures, the operating expenditures will take place in the general fund. And another aspect of that, where you will have you'll have skewed results from year to year, is you may have one-time things that are of one-time nature in the general fund. So it's not necessarily the general fund operations may not necessarily be all recurring annual expenditures. So you may have shifts. And one of the things that I've talked about, and I probably haven't done a very good job explaining this, is there's an accrual that we have at the end of the year, and it's an accrual for that timing, which means we haven't spent any money, we're just recording that liability. That liability is going up, up, up. This year, in 2007 alone, the increase in that accrual was $1.8 million. That's really more or less a paper. The state does not require that you record that on the state financial statements, but the Government Accounting Standards Board does. So that's $1.8 million that's really a paper transaction. It's just an increase in that accrual that takes place at the end of the year, and that's usually a function of the calendar being school starting sooner one year as opposed to the previous year. It's a function. Some of the other things that impact that would be raises. Benefit increases would impact that accrual. When they first started that out, I thought it would be more appropriate to go and accrue the offsetting revenue to match that, because at September 30, the foundation program, for example, is a school year type appropriation from the state, but because of the way the law is written, the examiner determined that you could not accrue the offsetting revenue for that. If you look at a lot of school systems in the state, if you get their financial statements, they'll show negative fund balances because that accrual really puts them in a negative situation. They have no disclosures that address that and talk about that, because certainly their bonding, their bondholders would be very interested in that. So that's something that you need to factor in also.
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, I think in the future, some type or some form of a workshop concerning the budget, especially as we work toward next year's budget. I think probably long overdue from my perspective, and I apologize for not asking for that sooner. So, I guess my last comment is on page 29 here.
I do.
Here again, this is just what concerns, I guess, not only myself but everyone. It's just a natural trend that we're seeing of cost from the 2002 to where we are now in 2007 expenditures, and just the sheer percentage increase. Now, I understand too, since 2002 to 2007, we've also added additional schools, and so therefore we have additional expenses. But I just think, as we go forward, and especially as we look at our capital planning in the future, and as you work toward this 5-year projections, I think, obviously you just have to kind of keep those numbers in mind about where things are truly going. So with that, I look forward to getting with you, and I've got some other things as I come up with my discussion.
Okay. And I'd be happy, one of the things that I've oftentimes thought might be appropriate is for us to divide ourselves somehow into committees, to have more drill down into some of these areas, for example, finance being one of those. And in Orlando, I attended one of the seminars on that, and they had what I thought was a fairly good outline of how their board did it. But it really involved dividing up into committees and dividing the organization up into functional areas that kind of went along with the interests of each board member, and really getting coverage of the whole organization that way.
I believe that'd be a great idea. I think it's something that needs to take place sooner than later. So as a goal, I think that's one that needs to be at the top of the list.
This might be a good time with Mr. Cooper coming on board and changing hands as far as the president is concerned. So is that something, Andy, we could possibly, Mr. Gray, excuse me, is that something we could possibly get together?
Absolutely.
I think it probably ought to start in June for sure.
Do you want, I mean, I can bring that outline to, for example, a work session, or we can call a work session to discuss it. I mean,
I think a workshop, number one, would be a great place to start.
Be a great idea. Mr. Beach has talked about this, the 2 years that he was president, and I mentioned it early on, so this might be something now, might be a good time for us to, to do that.
Madam President,
Yes, sir.
it's been quite some time since the council and board have met in a community fashion. This budget workshop is an excellent idea, and possibly we could do another one of those coordinated meetings to where all the members of the council can understand the school's budgetary process and needs as well. Possibly even hold it maybe at Hoover High or something in the theater, to where it could accommodate as many parents who would want to observe as well.
Okay.
There again, I think it's something that we need to go ahead and plan on and make it happen as soon as possible.
It's something that we'll be responsible for scheduling. That's okay. Mary Jo, will you just make a note of that, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crabtree.
Anything else regarding the business actions for tonight?
I have a question on the Simmons balcony renovations. How's that going? It is complete. Okay, so these are just the final. And what's the tail end of the freshman center? Is that just clean up from the building, or?
It is. It's a retainage that we are continuing to hold until warranty items get addressed.
Since we're talking about that, we're talking about the utilities. What are our plans? I know you've been giving us the information. I guess it's not a better time to talk about it.